Hello and welcome back to Everything Tumbler Tutorials. My name is Rebecca Escott and today we're going to be working with a brand new tumbler that AB Designs now carries that has a spin-on top. We're going to incorporate this into the tutorial shortly, but first we're going to go ahead and work on the tumbler. As you'll notice, I've already cut out my strips that we're going to be using for this design today. I did cut these strips off of a 12 by 12 cheetah print vinyl that again also comes from AB Designs, as well as our clear cast decal. We'll get to those shortly, but first we need to go ahead and do our stripes. So I cut my cheetah strips about 1.5 inches wide. So I'm going to go ahead as usual and pull off the entire backing, and I'm going to eyeball the placement right in the center of this tumbler. As you can see, I did not mark this tumbler off, so luckily for me this did not end up being a mistake at the end. Once I have it lined up and I'm pretty confident of its placement, I'm going to go ahead and press it nice and firmly down to the tumbler, and then we're going to roll it over and use this as a guide for the other side. Once I have both sides placed, then we'll trim the top and the bottom. So because I want this vinyl as close to that bottom rim as possible, I'm just going to use my scissors and trim this off. We're going to go ahead and press that down nice and firmly just to make sure it's nice and adhered to the tumbler and we don't have any lifts or wrinkles of that sort when we get ready to epoxy. For the top rim, we're going to go ahead and use our X-Acto knife, and you really want to make sure that your blade is nice and sharp because that's going to make cutting this so much easier. So once you have both your top and bottoms trimmed up, we're now ready to go ahead and place this back on the turner. This is just going to make life a little bit easier for when I go to tape off the vinyl. Now you can skip this step and easily use Mod Podge for your glitter method if that's the preference you prefer. So since I prefer the glitter spray paint wet method, if you will, I'm going to go ahead and tape this off. And I'm going to be mindful of coming on the inside just a little bit on the vinyl to where I do not have a gap between the spray paint and the vinyl. So you'll notice I'm going to go ahead and tape off, and I already have a white base from previously having spray painted the tumbler. But again, I decided to not use the Mod Podge and I wanted to go in with the spray paint. So once I have both sides taped off, we're then going to go ahead and spray paint it so that we can come in with Cream Custom Mix from AB Designs. Now this was a little bit lighter than I actually anticipated, so I decided to seal it with the clear seal from Rust-Oleum immediately following and do another glitter application. Now this is something I have talked about many times in my previous videos, but this was the first time I actually came into that situation where I needed to go ahead and apply a second coat of glitter. My goal here was to get a lot more true to the actual color of glitter that I was using, which is the only reason why I went in for a second coat of glitter. So once you've applied your glitter and you're satisfied with the application, go ahead and let this dry, and then you're going to want to seal this really, really well before moving on to your epoxy coat. If you are happy and satisfied with your glitter coverage at this point, we're going to go ahead and very carefully pull back the tape. Once you have removed your tape and this tumbler has been sealed and is completely dry, you're then ready to go ahead and move into your first coat of epoxy. I'm going to be using Fast Set from Counterculture DIY for my first coat of epoxy. Depending on your temperature, in the space in which you're working, you're going to want this to completely dry for at least 3 to 4 hours. If you have cooler settings, you're going to want this to dry a little bit longer. As with any coats of epoxy, make sure you use your heat torch to pop any bubbles that you may or may not be able to see. So while our tumbler continues to spin, we're going to go ahead and move on to the top. And I'm going to show you a very fun and simple way to incorporate this lid. These I cut into 2-inch diameter circles, one that's going to fit the top as well as the bottom. And we're going to go ahead and pull this off, and we're going to place this right onto the lid. Now, pressing firmly, you're easily going to be able to distinguish where the hole is for the straw. This is where we're going to take the X-Acto knife, pop in there, and kind of go at an angle. You'll see how I will lower the X-Acto knife at a nice angle to where I can just slice a perfect circle and remove this opening, if that makes sense. So once this strip of vinyl is removed, you're going to notice that there's the stainless steel that is now present, and we're going to have the stainless steel on the inside as well as the outside. And where we can actually apply the UV resin, it will adhere very nicely to the lid, which therefore will now make this washable. So in this clip, you're going to see that I'm going to apply and spread around the UV resin using a paintbrush. But I want to let you know, after this initial coat actually cured, I saw what I didn't like, which was a lot of brush strokes from obviously the paintbrush. So I decided, and I did this off camera, I apologize for that, but off camera I used a gloved finger and decided to spread around the UV resin that way. That actually worked out 10 times better, and it was much faster and much easier. Here, I'm obviously being very, very careful to have very little cleanup, but when I did the finger method, and again, gloved finger method, and I applied it that way, I kind of made a mess of things, and I do apologize for not having recorded that. Now looking back, I wished I had of. And not to worry, I definitely plan on doing this again. I really like how I incorporated the lid to match the tumbler, and this is just a very easy way to do that. So I assure you, I will be having future tutorials to where I can show you this method and not using the paintbrush. So once you've let this completely cure, we're going to go ahead and set this off to the side, and we're going to bounce right back to the tumbler. As you'll notice, I've already gotten started. This is the 2mm nail tape gold from AB Designs. I'm going to go ahead and show you the exact same method as I've shown so many times before on this other side. I really hope you guys are enjoying this video, and if so, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more tutorials coming soon. Once we have placed the nail tape, we are now ready for the decal. This is a clear cast decal, super easy to use, and it is definitely a game changer. As always, I will peel off the entire backing and eyeball this into place. When placing clear cast decals, it's super important that this is on an epoxied, clean, non-sanded surface. Now, all of the clear cast decals from AB Designs come in a square shape, or 98% of them, if not all of them. But for this particular case, on this decal, as well as the second decal that you will soon see, I just trimmed very, very close to the actual image. This is the matching decal, and it actually has Merry Christmas written on this decal. But I didn't want the Merry Christmas, so I just cut that out, and I cut very, very close to the trees to go on the back side. So essentially being the back of this tumbler. Once again, I'm just going to eyeball it, put it into place, working my way from the center out. So as you can see, I painted the bottom black. I wasn't really thrilled of the original way where the glitter was all here at the bottom, and I felt like my edges just did not seem very flush. So I sanded down and I decided to go ahead and tape this off and paint it black. I'm much happier with the outlook of this tumbler at this point. Now, since our paint is dry, we're ready to go ahead and place the decal here at the bottom. Once you are happy with placement, like I am, we are now ready to go ahead and get another coat of epoxy. I am going to be using Snow Caps additive from AB Designs in this coat of epoxy. As you'll notice in that upper corner, I'm only using a little bit, just enough to spice things up. Once you have it stirred up and mixed really well, you're ready to go ahead with your coat of epoxy. This is Counterculture's Fast Set for this next coat of epoxy. For the final coat of epoxy, I will be using the Artist Resin from Counterculture DIY. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to find us on Facebook at Everything Tumbler Tutorials for continued learning. Make sure you check out all of the links that will be listed in the description for you below. And as a quick reminder, as with any coats of epoxy, make sure you use your heat torch to pop any bubbles that you may or may not be able to see.